Good afternoon for the folks here on the East Coast, and good morning to the rest of the country. You'll see the backdrop of Philadelphia in my webcam, and we are for sure still counting votes. And we should be back to you sometime in the next several weeks with the result. So just thank you for joining us on your lunch hour here on the East Coast, and maybe for some breakfast or coffee in the other time zones. Today's topic is called the most underutilized GUL in the industry, and we truly believe that. I think you'll be hard pressed to find, and I was actually even challenged on LinkedIn this week by a competitor stating that maybe I was misleading folks in identifying a product that can do exactly this, and specifically stating that it's the only one. And I've accepted that challenge, and I think Joe Ross, who I have on the line here, will back me up here, that there for the first time in the history of the life insurance industry, we have 3 access features that we have not ever seen before. And if you combine that with Joe's ability to storytell and make presentations, I think what you'll find is a different story that can translate to income planning, long-term care planning, wealth transfer planning, and asset class diversification. So, why are we here? We are here today for the next 30 minutes or so to learn how AIG and American General is revolutionizing why people buy life insurance and how it's sold. So this is, without question, the next generation of life insurance, particularly you're going to hear the acronym AAS. That's an Accelerated Access Solution, and that will really self-describe how you can gain access to the death benefit with and without qualifying conditions. So what I'd like to do, and Joe and I are going to trade controls here. What I'd like to do is let you hear from Joe, understand the concept, understand his ability on how to storytell, get down into the nitty-gritty on how this works, and then I'm going to take control back, and I'm going to actually showcase a case study that is actually on myself, me and my wife. And I will show you how, once you understand the mechanics of how the AAS works, how you can apply it to everyday planning. And at the end of this call, I think what you will realize is that this is a product that you can weave into just about any demographic of any clientele that you're working with, from middle class to upper middle class to mass affluent to high net worth. We're going to leave a few minutes for questions at the end. This call is being recorded, so we promise to send out a recording and a copy of the slides within a couple hours of close. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my friend Joe Ross here, who is, again, a highly sought out speaker. He is the vice president executive at AIG American General. He has single-handedly led the charge on this product. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised and entertained given the heavy topic of life insurance here. So I'm going to turn the controls over to Joe, and I'll join you in a couple minutes. Joe, the floor is yours.
Anthony, if everything's working correctly, you can see my screen now?
Perfectly.
All right. So what we're talking about here, and what Anthony's saying is it's kind of hard to imagine that this could all be true, that American General Life is kind of single-handedly revolutionizing the life insurance industry. But in a manner of speaking, that is true. We are revolutionizing the way it's bought and the way it's sold, the reasons why it's bought and the reasons why it's sold. And we're doing that by showing people how they can turn illiquid life insurance death benefits into a liquid pool of money that they can spend on virtually anything they want while they're still alive, so they can achieve a higher sense of financial security, both before and during retirement. One of my favorite lines as I talk about this product package is that for most people, when they buy life insurance, in fact, when they buy any insurance product, let's just look at auto insurance as an example. If you buy automobile insurance, I'm sure all of you do, you spend your premiums, you kind of hope you'll never collect on your auto insurance policy because that means you got in an accident or something went horribly wrong. So you're hoping that you'll send those premiums to the insurance company month after month after month, and you'll never get anything back. And because of that, most people consider their premiums for their auto insurance policy to be an expense rather than an asset. Same with your homeowner's insurance. You hope to send those premiums off to the insurance company every month, year after year after year. You hope you never get anything back. That would actually be good news because it means you wrote those small checks, but nothing bad ever happened. But if something bad did happen, the insurance company would be there to write the big checks. But because you hope never to collect anything back on that policy, you kind of consider those premiums to be an expense, not an asset. But what we've done here is repositioned life insurance to change it from an expense to an asset. Now, how do we do that? This is the line I like to use, and you can use this with clients as well to get their initial interest in what you're going to show them. It's to say this, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if there was a way where you could put your entire life insurance death benefit in your checking account and spend it on anything you want while you're still alive, would you be interested in seeing how that works? Imagine saying that to a client. And with this product package, it's the only product package in the United States today that allows you to say that because it's a combination of benefits that isn't available anywhere else. That's how revolutionary this is. Other companies will catch on, they just haven't gotten there yet. But that's the phrase. If there was a way that you could put your entire death benefit in your checking account and spend it on virtually anything you want while you're still alive, would you be interested in seeing how something like that could work for you? That's the power of the story. So let's take a look at how this story works. To get it started, I like to use what I call my butterfly chart. And in this simple chart, I draw a diagram here that shows, just a second here, I get my pen ready. It shows our time prior to retirement, and it shows our time in retirement. What I'm going to do is start on this left side with this time prior to retirement. Let's imagine you're going out to talk to a young couple. Let's just say they're in their 30s. It's a couple with several children. They got a roof over their head, children under their care. They got a lot of stuff to worry about, right? There are many things that they would want life insurance to do, but there's three big ones. What are they? If you went out to talk to this couple about, hey, you need life insurance because if one of the two of you dies, you want to make sure these three things will happen. What are those three things? And if you give a client a minute to think about those, they'll come up with all three of them. Consistently, it's that they want to make sure that their kids can go to college to get a good start on their lives, that they can pay down or pay off their mortgage so that the family can stay in the house that they were living in the day before you died, and you can replace the income so that they can enjoy the lifestyle they had before you passed away. They can continue going to the educational programs they were enjoying. They can continue to live in the house they were living in. They can continue to go on the family vacations. And yes, it would be devastating to do that without you because you passed away, but wouldn't it be great if you knew in your absence that they could still do all of that? These are the big three, the three risks that people really want to have comfort. It's the three biggest reasons why people buy life insurance in the child rearing years. Now notice I've drawn this diagram so that all three of these are sloping downward over time. Why? It's because all three of these risks are getting smaller over time, and by the time you retire, they're basically gone. You don't need to replace income after you retired because you're not working anymore. You have no, if you died, you don't have any work income to replace. If you did your mortgage right, you paid it down, maybe even paid it off by the time you retired. And as far as kids going to college, well, heck, if you're retired, it's unlikely that your kids are still going to college. They probably graduated, they're on to their careers, they're paying off their own student loans. So you don't need life insurance to put your kids through college at the time that you retire. So what happens is all three of these risks get smaller and smaller over time, and ultimately they tend to go away. And so as a life insurance agent, you may be thinking to yourself, all I need to do is find my client a 20 or 30-year term insurance policy, and boom, this problem is taken care of. And that's why so much term insurance is sold. These people are buying term life insurance because of these three big issues, and they're pretty confident that all three of these issues are eventually going to go away. What they don't realize is that there are three other big risks that get larger and larger over time. They happen on the other side of the rainbow while you're in retirement. These three things are what give purpose to permanent life insurance. These are the things that give your clients a reason to own permanent life insurance as a part of their overall portfolio. And when you drive this value proposition to your clients, you'll see that your clients have an interest in having some term insurance and some permanent insurance instead of all term insurance. It creates much greater value to your client, and it also delivers more value to you because there's more revenue to be had from the permanent insurance policies. So let's talk about these other three risks on the other side of the rainbow. The first one I often talk about is what I call financial risk, because that's a whole hornet's nest worth of risks. Let's just cover a couple of those. Anybody ever heard of a stock market correction? I'm sure you have. It happens every 7 to 10 years based on the history of our stock market. Well, think about this for a minute. If you know anything about retirement distribution strategy, you already know that if you have an adverse correction during your retirement while you're distributing from your portfolio, it can spell the death of your portfolio. It can destroy the value. It may never return. It may go into a downward spiral from which it can never recover. And it's not a question of if your client's going to have a stock market correction. It's not even a question of when. It's a question of how many times. If it happens every 7 to 10 years, your client could experience 2 or 3 or 4 market corrections during their retirement, all of which could be devastating to their portfolio, taking their portfolio into the ground. Second thing that a lot of people don't think about is some of the expensive home ownership expenses. And I'm not just talking about here your utilities and your property taxes. I'm talking about stuff that can really add up, like what happens when your furnace, your air conditioner, or your water heater blow out? Well, there's $15,000 out the window. What happens if your roof gets damaged in a storm, or your roof is just plain old and you need to replace it? Well, that could be another $15,000 or $20,000 out the window. Depending on your roof, it could be significantly more than that. How about windows, flooring, all of this stuff? I had a house where I replaced almost all of the windows. I replaced the roof, the flooring, the furnace, the air conditioner, and the water heater. I replaced all of those in a 20-year period of time that I owned a house. Those things combined cost me nearly $50,000. What does that do to the value of your portfolio? It's a huge hit for most people. And what about interest rates? They're so low that people are diving into their principal because they can't generate enough interest earnings. It wasn't that long ago that a $100,000 CD could provide $6,000 or $8,000 worth of annual interest income to your client. At today's interest rates, that same $100,000 certificate of deposit may provide them $300 worth of annual income. So they've lost thousands and thousands of dollars of annual income just due to low interest rates. So they're eating into their principal, which is eroding their portfolio. What about tax rates? Do you know anybody who says they don't think tax rates are going up in the future? I tell you, just start asking people which way they think tax rates are going. Are they going to go down, go up, or stay the same? I haven't had a person in 10 years tell me they think anything other than tax rates are going up. If you're retired and you're living off of your IRA and tax rates go up and everything you're taking out of your portfolio is taxable, now you have to withdraw more from your portfolio, which takes your portfolio into the ground. See the common theme here? How many people do you know who got into retirement without having saved enough money? And so they start their retirement behind the 8 ball to begin with. And how many people do you know that when they're just starting their retirement, they're healthy and vigorous, that they spend more than they probably should? This stuff happens all the time. And what I'm telling you is that for your clients, they won't get hit with just 1 or 2 of these. They're probably going to get hit with 3 or 4 of these, all of which have a compound effect of taking their portfolio down into the ground. Now, the longer you live, the higher the risk of these things happening and the more expensive that risk becomes. So I've drawn this financial risks line sloping upward to the right. What's the second risk that we should talk about? It's healthcare costs. There's 2 things going on in healthcare costs, both of which affect your client, both of which make healthcare costs more expensive the longer life continues, which is why my healthcare cost line is also sloping upward to the right. What are those 2 things? It's inflation, which makes healthcare more expensive, but it's also utilization. The older we get, the more healthcare we use. So the combination of inflation and utilization create a compounding effect on the increasing cost of healthcare. And the third thing that gets larger and larger over time is the impact of reduced Social Security when one spouse dies. You know, my dad died in 2013. When he died, my mom's Social Security checks went down $15,000 a year. You know, if you live 10 years from that, that's $150,000 out of your investment portfolio. Is your portfolio prepared for that? This was a huge surprise to my mom, but that's what happens. Everybody who has a couple who is going to have Social Security as part of their income. When one spouse dies, they will lose a minimum of 1/3 of their Social Security income benefit up to a maximum of 1/2 of their Social Security income benefit. I won't get into the formulas that drive that result, but that's what it is. A minimum of 1/3, maximum of 1/2 of your Social Security income benefit is gone when the first spouse dies. So let me tell you a story. Let's just take myself and my wife, Marion. Let's just forward the hands of time. I'm not 80 years old now, but let's just say I was in my 80s, and Mary and I are out there in our senior ages. I'm in the nursing home. I've been there for a couple of years. Mary's been writing checks for $100,000 a year to that nursing home. What's that been doing to the value of our portfolio? Boom, down it goes. Oh, by the way, while I've been in the nursing home and while Mary's been writing out those checks for $100,000 a year, what else happened? Oh, there was a 20% correction in the stock market, and we lost a ton of our portfolio to that. You know what else happened? The furnace and the air conditioner both blew out, and that was $15,000 out the window. Oh my God, now what? And so you start, and I realized that just in a few years or less, I will take my last breath, and Mary will lose a dramatic amount of her Social Security income. So as I'm laying there in my nursing home bed, looking up into Mary's eyes, what is the number one thing on my mind? The number one thing on my mind is Mary going to be okay? And I know she's not. I know our portfolio is nosediving. I know that she's going to lose significant Social Security income. I know she's in financial trouble. Wouldn't it be great if I knew that within 30 days of my death, a big income tax-free check was going to show up in Mary's mailbox and restore the value of her portfolio to assure her of a lifetime of independence and financial security? Gosh, that'd be great, wouldn't it? That's what life insurance does. So when you're talking to these clients on the left, these young clients, and you find yourself quagmired in this discussion about these things, and you know for a fact that it's very unlikely that your 30-something clients are going to die before retirement, since you don't think they're going to die before retirement, they're thinking we just need a term insurance policy because we only need life insurance for if I die, right? And that's the result for most people on the left side of this rainbow in their pre-retirement years. They're just concerned about what happens if they die. But these issues on the right, these issues will be here for the rest of your life, and they'll just continue to get worse and worse and worse as time goes by. If you want life insurance to provide financial security for your client that overcomes the impact of these three issues, you need life insurance for when you die, no matter when that is. If you die life insurance, that's term life insurance. When you die life insurance, that's permanent life insurance. Now your client's eyes glaze over when we call things term insurance, permanent insurance, universal life, whole life, you name it. They don't know the difference between these products. When you talk to them about life insurance they need for if they die and life insurance that they'll ultimately need for when they die, no matter when that is, now they start to connect with you and they understand how this works. So let me tell you a little story about how we can put all this together to provide a solution for your clients, and then we'll get into the real nuts and bolts of our conversation for today. Let's just assume that you have this client over here on the left side of the rainbow, and you just did their needs analysis. And when you did your needs analysis, you determined that they needed $1 million worth of life insurance to be able to accomplish protecting their family against all these issues and taking care of all of their financial concerns. Okay, great. How are you going to approach this client to determine what they need in terms of term insurance and permanent insurance? Here's how you do it. You start out on this side of the rainbow. You say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you were in your retirement years and one of you passed away, how much money would you like to make sure you had in your investment portfolio to be certain that your surviving spouse would be financially secure and independent for the rest of their life? How much money do you think that would take? Now, I've heard answers to that question as low as $150,000, as high as $500,000, depending on the clients I'm talking to. That's kind of the range you'll typically see. So let's just say I did my needs analysis. My needs analysis said that we need $1 million worth of life insurance right now. But I'm asking you a question about the future. How much life insurance would you need out here if one spouse died? And you said to me, I would need $400,000. If my surviving spouse had $400,000, I'd be absolutely confident that they'd be financially secure for the rest of their life. Okay, out of this $1 million component, we need to buy $400,000 worth of permanent life insurance. It'll be there when you die, no matter what, no matter when. But now we only have 400 of the 600,000 we need. Where do we get the other $600,000? We'll buy a $600,000 term insurance policy. And you know what happens? That gives you the $1 million worth of life insurance that you need today. But when you turn 65 or 70 and retire, that term insurance policy and the premium goes with it will all disappear. You'll never have to worry about them again. And in fact, you won't need them again either. If you position that permanent insurance policy correctly, you might also get that set up so that the permanent insurance premiums also stop at age 65, meaning that your client has this safety net for the rest of their life and no premiums during retirement. Wouldn't that be perfect? Now, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to do a pay for life insurance policy simply because of cash flow. And sometimes you can't get around that and your client has to continue paying premiums into their retirement. But if you can get it to happen that they can get their premiums done before retirement, wouldn't that be great? You can see why I call this the butterfly chart, because it's kind of shaped like the wings of a butterfly. But you can use this story to establish for your clients the importance of life insurance and life insurance that they need for if they die and life insurance they need for when they die. So now let's dive into this three-part solution. At AIG, we call it Asset Protector. It's a combination package. There's no product called Asset Protector. There's a solution we call Asset Protector. And the three parts of it are, its core, its foundation is a guaranteed universal life insurance policy. It's backed up by a chronic illness rider. It has to be an indemnity-based chronic illness rider to be able to say what I just said. What did I say? Remember, if you don't die early, you can put your entire death benefit in your checking account and spend it on virtually anything you want while you're still alive. Well, if you have an indemnity-based chronic illness rider, the insurance company just sends you checks and you can spend that money on anything you want. It doesn't matter and they don't care. There's no taxes on that. That's the beauty of it. If it's a reimbursement-based solution, then you only get money when you have expenses. And that means you can't spend that money on anything you want. You have to spend it on the care. But with an indemnity-based product, take an example. You can have a husband and wife, and let's just say that the husband is in early stages of dementia, but the wife can still care for them at home. I have this going on right next door to me. My neighbors are in this exact same situation. He's a doctor, he's retired, he's having dementia issues, he's in the early stages. She's taking care of him at home. How much expense are they incurring? Zero. But because he's cognitively impaired to the point that he can't care for himself, under our rider, because it's indemnity based, they would be able to make a claim and we'd be sending them checks right now. And they could buy a new car, they could hire people to go get groceries for them, they could put modifications to their home, they can do anything they want with that money. They could put it in the bank and let it grow. They can do anything they want. That's the beauty of indemnity based. The third piece of the puzzle is the part that nobody else has. We call it a longevity rider. This longevity rider says, hey, the first thing that can happen to you is that you could die. That's typically a pre-retirement concern. If you don't die, then you're in your retirement years and you're worried that you go into the nursing home. If that's a problem, we'll take care of you. But what if you didn't die and what if you didn't get sick? Then you're living longer than you ever thought. And that means your portfolio is probably running out of money. And that's where you can have access to your entire death benefit while you're still alive. And this is something no one else is doing to create such a unique solution. So let me talk just briefly about the three components so you know how they work. The GUL policy is a GUL, guaranteed premiums, guaranteed death benefits, guaranteed return of premium in two different ways. You can either have 50% of your premiums back in policy year 20, or you can cancel the policy in year 25, get 100% of your premiums back, no questions asked. It's an income tax-free return of premium because it's all cost basis. That's baked into the policy. There's no boxes to check. It's there automatically. It's built in. You get it automatically. Guaranteed premium, guaranteed death benefit, guaranteed return of premium. That's the foundation. Now let's talk about the two riders. The first rider is our chronic illness rider, and Anthony mentioned the name of it. We call it AAS, the Accelerated Access Solution. That's the technical name for it. I just like to call it a chronic illness rider. What makes AIG's chronic illness rider unique is that it gives you three different access points or three different access amounts depending on what you want to have as liquidity. You could choose to be able to access up to 2% of your death benefit per month, or you could access up to 4% of your death benefit per month. Or there's a third option AIG has that no other carrier in the industry has. Almost every carrier has 2%. Only a small handful have anything more than that, but AIG has a third option. Nobody else has it. It is uncapped. It's an option that does not have a percentage of your death benefit limit on it. It pays the IRS per diem, whatever it is at the time you go on claim, no matter what it is. So last year, the IRS per diem in 2020 was $380 today. Today, next year in 2021, it'll be $400 a day. That limit continues to go up. It's an inflation adjusted index and it continues to increase. So with AIG's per diem option, you get access to whatever that daily limit is at the time you go on claim. Now it says here it's different in California. It's because in every state except California, they use the IRS per diem limit. California has established their own per diem limit. It's similar but a little different, but I had to caveat that. but it does allow you unlimited access all the way up to the per diem limit every single day. So that's an option nobody else has, makes ours very unique. Where is it really valuable? It says if you have your maximum limit, and we'll let you take your death benefit as fast as 12 months. So if you took 100% of your death benefit in 12 months, what's 100% divided by 12? It's 8.3%. So technically, AIG's third option allows you to access not 2% a month, not 4% a month, but 8.3% of your death benefit a month. And if I give you a real world example on that, if you had a client buying a $300,000 death benefit, if you offered them a 2% rider, that would only allow them to access $6,000 a month, even though HIPAA would allow them to access up to $12,000 a month. So you instead say, hey, I've got another carrier, they've got a product with a 4% option. Well, at 4%, you can access $12,000 a month. And that gets you to today's HIPAA limit. But what about if your client's 50 years old buying it today and they're not going to go on claim until they're 85 years old, 35 years later? Well, that HIPAA limit could be $25,000 a year, and your 4% limit is going to seem way too low at that point. If you had AIG's third option, if you chose that instead, they could access their entire death benefit in a period of 12 months, giving them $25,000 of liquidity, 8.3% per month, and that's something you can't get anywhere else. So we've got the death benefit with its guarantees. We've got the chronic illness rider. All of these benefits are fully guaranteed. Here's the game changer. It's the longevity insurance rider that we call lifestyle income solution. How does that work? It allows you to accelerate up to 10% of your death benefit per year, and you don't have to be sick to get it. Your primary requirement is that you live to age 85. If you live to age 85, you'll get 10% of your death benefit per year for the next 10 years, liquidate your entire death benefit, put it in your checking account, spend it on anything you want. Can you access it earlier than age 85? Yes, you can, but we treat it kind of like Social Security works. You know, if you take your Social Security income benefit at your full retirement age, 65 or 66 or 67, you get 100% of your Social Security benefit. If you take it early, like at 64 or 63 or 62, what do you get? You get a reduced benefit. We do the same thing here. If you take your benefit at age 85, you get 100% of your benefit. If you take it at an earlier age, you get a reduced benefit. That's how it works, but it allows you that access that no one else allows. We treat it as tax-free distributions up to your cost basis until you recovered all of your premiums. Anything excess of that, you'll get a 1099. It'll be taxed like a distribution from your IRA plan. There are two caveats here. There's two requirements that are necessary in order to trigger this benefit. First, the policy has to be enforced for at least 15 years, which would make sense. I mean, we can't issue $1 million death benefit today and start sending checks for $100,000 a year for 10 years starting next year. That just financially doesn't make any economic sense. So the policy has to be enforced for at least 15 years. And at the time you start accessing the death benefit under this provision, the policy has to be guaranteed to age 100 with no further premiums, right? Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if you wanted to have your full benefit at age 85, what you might run is an illustration that is a guarantee to age 100, because it has to be guaranteed all the way out to age 100, but with premiums paid to age 85, so you can access the benefit. If you instead wanted to illustrate accessing the money at age 75 and instead of age 85, you'd have to do a pay to age 75 guarantee to 100 illustration. And that way you can start triggering this lifestyle income solution rider anytime you want, age 75 or later, giving you more access at an earlier age if you need it. That's how it works. So let's talk about how this story plays out. Basically, most of your clients are going to go through three simple stages in their life. They're going to go through their pre-retirement years. They're going to go through their years in retirement, normal retirement age, right out to a normal life expectancy. And some of your clients are going to live beyond normal life expectancy. Those are the people that are going to be concerned about this longevity rider. Let's take a look. In your pre-retirement years, what are you doing? You're building up your assets. And the one thing that could interfere with your ability to build your assets to the level you need them for retirement is if you died unexpectedly. Got hit by the bus, got that cancer diagnosis, COVID take you away, whatever the case may be, you died unexpectedly. That life insurance death benefit will make sure that your retirement savings are secure. Now, let's just say you're having your 65th birthday, you're blowing out 65 candles, you realize you ain't dead yet. Do you have any financial concerns left? Yes, you've built these assets. Your concern now is, how do I protect these assets? And the biggest thing you're concerned about is, what happens if I go into the nursing home during my retirement years? What's going to protect those portfolio assets for the benefit of my spouse? And that's where the chronic illness rider comes into play to help you protect your portfolio. But then it's your 85th birthday. You're living longer than you ever thought. You didn't die. You didn't get sick. You're living longer than you ever expected. And unfortunately, your portfolio, due to house expenses, market corrections, and everything else that's going on, tax rate increases, all that stuff is going on. Your portfolio is going into the toilet. What are you going to do now? Well, your biggest concern is, how do I extend my assets? And this is where the third piece of the puzzle comes into play. If you're living longer than you ever thought you would, and you're running out of portfolio assets, you can access your death benefits at 10% a year to be able to extend the value of your portfolio. $1 million death benefit will send you $100,000 a year. $100,000 death benefit will send you $10,000 a year. $10 million death benefit, that's right, we'll send you $1 million a year for 10 years to be able to extend the value of your asset portfolio. And that's how the program works. In fact, we're so proud of the way this works, we put it in our illustrations. So if you look at page 7 of our illustration, you'll see this graphic. And as you know, any GUL illustration is going to be like 30 or 40 pages long. This half page, this one graphic sells the deal. I ran an illustration for a 50-year-old with $1 million death benefit, and it said, if you die unexpectedly at any time, your beneficiaries will get $1 million. If you go into the nursing home during your core retirement years, you can access up to $138,000 a year, and it'll take you 7.2 years to bleed through your $1 million death benefit. But if you didn't die and you didn't get sick and you're living longer than you ever expected, the longevity benefit would kick in, giving you access to $100,000 a year for 10 years starting at age 85. This page automatically prints out of the illustration, and that is the deal maker right there. That's the page that makes the sale for your client. And when you think about how that marries with the butterfly chart we talked about earlier, look at what the 3 components do for you. The death benefit takes care of all of those pre-retirement risks, as well as restoring the value of the portfolio, giving it the extra cash they need to offset the reduced Social Security income so that the surviving spouse has an extra resource to pull from. If they didn't die early, the chronic illness benefit is there to be able to handle if they have healthcare costs. And if they live longer than they expected, the longevity benefit can help offset all of those financial risks that could have eroded the value of the portfolio. So what you see here is your client had their 6 biggest risks in life, 3 pre-retirement, 3 post-retirement, but in a single product solution, we're able to address all 6 of those concerns. And there's not another product in the United States can do that. And that's why, as Anthony said, this is a game changer. This is something so different that no one else can do what we can do with this product. So what I'd like to do is turn it back over to Anthony, because I know he has a couple of thoughts on this, and he also has a case study he'd like to share with you. So let me send the microphone back over to Anthony. Anthony, if you go ahead and take the controls, you can show that case study.
Thanks, Joe. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to keep my sales hat off here, right? So this is an amazing story. It is an attractive product. We know it has incredible features. So now what do we do with it? How do we weave it into our daily practice? Hence the term in the subject of the invitation, the most underutilized GUL in the marketplace. So I'm bringing you live a case study on myself and my wife. And this is I would consider myself middle to mass affluent, age 44. My wife is a little bit younger. She's a guidance counselor, so we have her pension, we have Social Security, we have a bunch of cash value life insurance. And our goal here, I come into the wealth manager's office and I say, I want to create an additional $100,000 of after-tax income at my age 66. And because my wife's a little bit younger, I need that to last for 40 years into retirement. You deal with these, you have these conversations on a daily basis, right? I'm going to assume 6% growth. I like the fund lineup at Vanguard. I'm going to stuff a bunch of money into a non-brokerage account, non-qualified brokerage account. We're going to assume tax rates at 44 and 20. I am a little bit more conservative. I study distribution rates for a living. I'm going to assume a 3% distribution rate. So simple math tells you 100 grand at a 3% distribution rate, I'm going to need $3.3 million of assets by my age 66 to be able to fulfill these goals, right? Simple enough. And if I look at this probability of not running out of money chart, what this describes at different distribution rates, creating longevity for my portfolio into various years in retirement. So if you look at the 30-year mark, I'm going to grab my pen here. Safe bet at the 30-year mark, 3% distribution rate, right? Call it a 95% probability. Fair enough. Now, remember, I have to get out 40 years because I have to provide for my spouse. So I'm out here somewhere on this chart, which again keeps me in that 3% range. So that's where I was able to arrive at that number. So what do you do, right? What do you get advice from your wealth manager, and they say, okay, you want a 3% distribution rate, $100,000 of income. We're going to reverse engineer this. You're going to have to save an additional $72,500 each year to meet your goals. And I jump into my Wealthy and Wise or INSMART calculator, and I show that fund deposits of $72,000 with capital growth at 6%, assuming some turnover, I get $3.334 million of assets at my age, end of year 65. Beginning of year 66 allows me to pull 3% of that value at $100,000 per year. Simple math. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the unconventional approach, and I'm going to carve out premium to purchase the product that Joe just described that gives my family $1 million of guaranteed death benefit, $1 million of guaranteed chronic illness in the event that I get sick along the way, and $1 million of a backstop that some of the leap practitioners on this call utilize daily, and shorten the duration of the number of years I need to provide $100,000 into retirement. So very simply, I pay $11,635 and I get everything that Joe just described. I'm no different than the example that he just mentioned in his part of the presentation. $1 million of death benefit, $138,000. Now I'm 44 years old. I'm looking at the per diem amount, the per diem option, because claim may not occur for 30 years into the future, and I would assume that the IRS per diem would be something very meaningful 30 years into the future. So what does that do, and how does that impact my savings program? Well, first and foremost, my income needs change, right? If I am accumulating through age 65, and my goal is to have $100,000 of after-tax income from age 66 through age 105, because I need to take my wife out to her age 95, there's a big gap here, right, that I don't need to provide for anymore because I have the accelerated access and the lifestyle income riders. So what this gap does, it is a written permission slip for me to take a higher distribution rate and spend down my assets that much quicker. So yes, I need to carve out $11,000 for premium, but remember, I had a budget of $72,500 in the conventional method, which leaves me with $60,000 to put towards my Vanguard brokerage account. And by driving $60,000 into my Vanguard brokerage account at the same exact assumptions, I end up with $2.8 million instead of $3.33. And because I don't have to provide for the years of age 86 through 95, I am certainly permitted to take a higher distribution rate, probably to the equivalent of 4.5% to 5%, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to say that at 3.5% distribution rate on a $2.8 million asset, I grab the same $100,000 that I did in the conventional method. the result of the plan, I have the exact equivalent or arguably more retirement income to spend. I've provided a guaranteed death benefit of $1 million to my family. And I am protected against a chronic illness, which would absolutely devastate my savings program to the tune of a $1 million claim. I'm now providing that benefit to my family as well. So as we approach 1240, we've had a couple questions come in, but this was a perfect example of how to put your sales hat on, look into your practice, and think about how a product like this can solve multiple solutions for your client base. First question we had, an example of taking $25,000 per year, could it be taxable since it's over the HIPAA max of $12,000 if not offset by taxes? So the question is, AIG will actually cap the maximum they will pay out through the chronic illness rider. So the $12,000 per month in that example is the most you will get from AIG once you qualify for claim. That answers that question.
Let me just clarify that a little bit though, Anthony. That would be the maximum if you were on claim this year or next year, 2021.
Today. Right.
To Anthony's point, that per diem limit continues to go up. So if you went on claim 30 years from now and the HIPAA limit was $25,000 a year, AIG would send you $25,000 a year instead of 12. The cap would be that HIPAA limit.
Thank you, Joe. Any other questions? I've tried to answer the questions as we went along here. You were kind enough to type them into the chat box. I think we've addressed everything. That was the only question outstanding. So as we approach the 12:45 mark, again, I hope this session has brought value. As Joe Ross says, relevant and actionable, right, Joe? So dig through your client base, contact your life brokerage marketer. If you're looking to see quotes or discuss a case study and how this product may fit or benefit your clients, please give us a call. And again, thank you for your attention and enjoy the weekend.